Great to have you here, folks. Welcome to this video. Today we're going to polish with the small mini polishing pads from CHEMICALWORKZ. Hopefully you've already seen the overview video. There, I showed you which pads are currently available. And now, let's get to the A pillar here on the BMW E and test the small pads there. Due to the pattern of scratches, we're going to test the strongest pad available here, the grey one, which you also know from the larger pads. And let's see if we can work well with it. Does it maintain its strength, and can it reliably work evenly on the surface here? Let's take a look at that now. As you can see, we have a huge selection. We have the black pad, the orange, the blue, and also the grey pad. And we need the maximum strength on the surface. And now we're going to take the grey pad, and I'm going straight for the smallest pad available, which is for the ER plate. So we're going to take the smallest pad, which of course also struggles with this heavy load due to its small size. And we're going to test that right away. But we also like to take a look at the other sizes. It's all about the surface here. And I think you can already see that we have some very, very severe damage on it. So, the scratch pattern here is just as bad as on the roof above. And that's why we're going to use the strongest pad right here. And because we have such a narrow spot here, we're using the smallest pad available to us, because we know that the smaller the pad, the harder it is for the foam to stay completely stable in this area. And normally we only work on small paint areas with such small surfaces. So, you're not going to use this on the roof and polish an entire roof area with it. That's just way too oversized for such a pad. That means narrow areas like here on the mirror cap, or for example, such a small area up here. Then we also have a typical area here where you would work with such a pad, and we're going to take the grey one and go right on it. We're going to go over this with the Sonax now. A lot of people have it at home, and it's a nice combination with the pad. If you need more cutting power, and you should find that out, you can also work directly with the Ultimate Cut March 6th on the pad, and then we'll put a small drop on it here. And for such a small area and such a small pad, you really need very, very little polish. So just wait a moment until the polish comes out, put a small drop in the center, don't press down any further, just spread it a bit, and the rest will distribute itself over the surface. So don't put a ton of polish on here, because such a pad can't absorb much polish if you fill it completely and pile a huge amount on. Unfavorable. So let's go up a bit. And now we're going to work on this surface. You see, from the pad's perspective, it's actually optimal. We can actually make two effective passes, one up here and one down here. If you take an ER pad, we can just test it out, because you always want to learn this in the videos. And I want to show you. We're going to take the ER pad now. When we place this here, you can already see that this area is slightly curved, and the pad wobbles back and forth. That means you would mainly be polishing in the center here, and the edges would be quite far up in the air while polishing. Even if it eventually presses against the paint, you would still have the maximum polishing power right in the center of the pad, on that line in the middle. And that's why I would recommend you, here, if it tilts back and forth like that, I would always give you the pad a number. Offer a smaller one. You might also consider using the ER plate, but I'm just going to go straight for the smallest one here, because we want to challenge the pad a bit. So now we're going to spread the polish over the surface. So spreading it out is really, really important here. So level 1 to 2, because the pad doesn't have a huge mass, so a bit of polish might splatter out at the beginning. So really start off slowly, spreading it evenly over the surface, and then increase the speed. And if that works well, and nothing is flying around, that's really a key point. Make sure to go over it nice and evenly. And you see here, I'm making the first pass up top, and then I'll make the second pass in the middle. And that's how you work your way over the entire surface. It's not big, so it doesn't take much time. You can really take your time, apply a bit of pressure on the machine, and also make sure to go over the area evenly. Try to catch the edges as well. You can also work on that again afterwards. But it's really about processing everything as evenly as possible, and not just removing the scratches in a spotty way. Also, really do 2 or 3 rounds here, and then you should check the results and see how well it worked. And then you can decide whether to go a step stronger, or just do another round. That's exactly what I did here. And I think we should first take a look at the interim results. So we've already done the first round, and you can see here that the pad still has a really nice hardness and stability. It's slowly getting softer, which makes sense, as I just explained, due to the smaller structure. But you can see here, we haven't had any significant material buildup at all. So that's really, really good. I'm doing a second round, and basically the first one was the test spot, so to speak. I just checked how well it worked, and now we're going to go over it again for a second round, specifically along the edges, because I noticed there were still some small leftover scratches there. And that's why I'm doing a careful second round. And this is how you can do it exactly the same way. Make sure to go over it evenly, and don't press the pad and the machine down hard onto the surface. So we're talking about significantly lighter pressure or let's say in quotes, the overall weight you apply to the machine, because these are more sensitive machines and you just need to approach it a bit more gently. But you can see it works really, really well, and you also have great handling with the small machines, so it's also the most fun. For me at least. I really enjoy working with these small machines. It's just so much fun and you always end up with a nice result. Then we can take a look at what the first round has achieved. So the damages were really quite severe, just like on the roof up top. So it's really quite intense. We can also take the tape off right away so we can polish the transition cleanly. You don't need to degrease again for a check with the Nufino 6. But I'll do it for you anyway. It's enough on the sprayer, because the polish doesn't have any filling properties or anything like that. But we'll get back to the topic of covering polishes and such later. You can see it quite well here, but with the lamp it works best if we go directly to the tripod. I think the difference is very, very clearly visible, so it's very, very clear. I also think that in terms of clarity, it's really good. We still have just the tiniest residues left. I'll take you outside with me so we can take a look at it from above. But take a look here. So I think the difference is really, really clear to see. When we go over here with the lamp, yeah, it's really impressive what you can achieve in such a short time. And you always have to remember, polishing an A-pillar can be done very quickly. Tape everything around neatly and then go over it evenly. You can see it here, just minimal. I might just do one more quick round here and then clean the edges at the top and bottom really, really well. But other than that, for a really quick action, that was great. We can also get a little closer. Do you see that? So just very, very lightly minimal. The light here still shows us the very, very deepest things. But we really need to look very, very closely here. Under our lab light, I always say you can still see it a bit. So we can definitely do another round. Yeah, with the ER pad, you just have to make sure that the entire pad surface isn't always making 100% contact. So in this case, it's really still borderline. You can still do it, but I recommend the smaller pad. But here, I just want to touch up the edges again, and then we'll go over it with the ER pad again. And that's still quite manageable in this case. You can also immediately notice here that the stability increases with the size of the pad, as does the overall stability. So make sure you don't press down too hard. But the larger the pad, and you can really notice that here with the ER, you can apply a bit more pressure. So just feel your way around, and you see, I'm going in several passes, tilting the machine a little bit each time, bam, tilt it again a bit, and that's how I work my way over the entire surface. But it can't be done any faster than with the small pad. And that's why, just a note, you can also use the smaller sizes perfectly here. Here, I'm also going to specifically go over the edges again, and then it should actually work very, very well. So just feel your way in. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out in the comments below or via WhatsApp. And I think for anyone who has an EVO Mini at home, it's just so much fun because you can beautifully work on those little details and achieve the perfect result. So you saw at the end also along this little edge up here, because we want to have them as defect-free as possible. Well, the pads aren't at all sorry now. It really has a nice stability. But you see, it doesn't really make sense to work with the 50 millimeters in this area because you can't apply it evenly anyway. And that's why it's also good that the small pads are included. Shall we spray a little more cleaner on? Here on this, you can also use the Veritas or eraser and whatever else is available. It's important that if you want to play it safe here and you're not sure whether the polish you have contains any fillers or any carnauba wax components, you can actually inform yourself beforehand. Still, simple. Recommended to clean again, and can now here clean that up again. And now let's just take a look at the area. So that looks good. Here we have exactly the transition. I didn't use any tape there, but I think you can see it well. Here we have a nice transition. Here I polished a bit over the transition, and now we're here in the area where it really looks very, very nice again. Look. Really beautiful radiant blue. And here we have the transition right now. Here, he comes. I think this was the tape area before. And now we've polished over it a bit. But here we still have the initial state, here a middle state, and here we have now the polished surface. And it looks really beautiful, doesn't it? But no matter how close you get to the light and how far you move away, very, very nice. And you can really do something like that on a Saturday morning, you know, just take care of small areas. You don't have to do the whole car in one day, especially in the hobby area when you have more time available. And then afterwards, you can apply your favorite finishing product again, wax, spray wax, whatever you prefer. I really like the pads a lot too. The little one was able to regain a bit of stability here. It just lost a little bit, but that's logical given its small shape. You don't need that either. Sugarcoat. So these little pads are really for very narrow areas. Please don't start working on the roof with it for an hour. That's complete nonsense. Then you'll wear out all the pads that are out there completely because they just can't handle it due to their small structure. You can really notice the difference in stability between the 50 mm and in the 30 mm pad. But here, on such a narrow surface, it really held up super well. You don't need to use a finishing polish again afterwards because you just need the X0505. Has really gone deep into the finish, and you just need to check your paint to see if that's enough for you. Here with the ME36, this is a really nice paint that you can often polish perfectly in a single step. For example, if you have a very dark fiber cap, solid black, metallic black, or if it's a very, very soft paint, it reacts a bit differently, then you might need to go over it with a finish afterwards. But that's really not a problem at all. You take, for example, the blue pad, or you can also use the black pad along with a nice finish polish. For example, you can also do that with the X0406 or with others. Finish polishes from other manufacturers. Then we just have to stick with Sonax, and it's basically a two-step process. But going over it with the finish here might take a bit of time on this area. 2 or 3 minutes. And we definitely had the time, so I really like the pads. They can definitely hold their own against their bigger counterparts. If you have any questions about that, just drop them in the comments below. We will also look at the other pads here, looking at other components, but then it's no longer a polishing pad test like right now. Instead, these are just the regular guides for the vehicles I have. For example, polishing mirror cables, polishing the A-pillar, and everything that goes along with it. There are a few things coming your way in the next few days, and there are also the other small pads like blue, orange, black, and so on included. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below or reach out directly via WhatsApp. I'll pop that up for you here, and then I'm available for you anytime. And if you want more information about that, just get in touch with me. And I'm going to get started right away on shooting the next video for you. Until next time, you're Sebastian. Hey guys!